So the one thing I would say, so Ayşegül is a GDE, so she's a Google developer expert. And one of the things that is really awesome about Ayşegül is that she really reflects a lot of the Angular team's values. And so when we talk about Angular team values, we talk about apps users love to use, apps developers love to build, and a community where everyone feels welcome. And when it comes to the work that she's doing at Narwhal to help user experiences be great for users, whether it's doing lots of different speaking engagements to help developers do a better job of speaking, or whether it's trying to really build and foster communities with her work with NG Girls, with Software for Good or Code for Good. All of these things are really important to making JavaScript successful, to making Angular successful, and to making just a better, more collaborative community kind of across the world. So a big thank you to Ayşegül, and I will hand over the stage to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for that very nice introduction. And Steven has been always a supporter of our community too, and helped us create these events. So if you are in need of creating a community, reach out to him. He's super nice. Hey everyone, my name is Ayşegül. I'm here to talk about Angular Console, a tool that we built recently. As Steven explained, I'm a Google developer expert for the Angular team, which means that I'm most of the time available for your questions and trying to bridge the gap between the team and the community. And I also organize some events, and recently we just had a Code for Good week, but what we wanted to do in general over the course of the whole year is to connect developers who wants to help the community with the open source projects. We had multiple great projects this year in the last 3 years, and we will add more. And if you're an open source project that needs help from the community, you can reach out as well. So I worked at Narwhal. We are a consulting company specifically for enterprise applications using Angular. And I work with these great people. You might know them from the open source project, from Angular team, from TypeScript, Prettier. So what's common among us is that we are really, really passionate about open source and creating tools for the developers. And the guy with the beard is my boss, and he's my favorite. Mandatory. I know he's watching. I need a raise. So what we are building is tools to make our lives easier. We help a lot of enterprise applications, large-scale applications, and we have been using Angular CLI, but there are some parts of it that we have to repeat over and over. And since Angular CLI enabled us with the schematics to extend what it's doing, we extended it and called it NX. And if you've never heard of it, and if you are using it, if you are building a large-scale application, there's an ngconf video that you can watch and learn about it, but you will see some of it here too. And the newest thing we just released is Angular Console. What it is it's a UI tool that makes it visual and easy for anyone to build applications, use Angular CLI and any other schematics that is available. When I say it's a UI tool, I have always been very skeptical about UI tools. One of them was the GitHub. So I can already use the tools. Why would I use a visual UI tool? But then I discovered how great it is that I don't have to remember so many things, and seeing things visually really helps you to understand what you're committing. So this is one of the things that we accomplish with Angular Console. So what we can do and what we are doing is generate code visually and scaffold the whole application. That's one thing. But also, one great thing is that I don't have to remember any of the Angular CLI's options anymore. I am a very common visitor of Angular CLI's GitHub page, and go to the wiki and then find out about the options. But now with the Angular console, I have all of the options as a drop-down menu automatically for me, so I can see them and learn more about them and discover the new ones. The other thing that we can do is run any of the NPM scripts that you have and discover newer extensions with the schematics. Like Angular Material has a schematic, Kendo UI has lots of schematics that are available to you that allows you to generate code. Most of them I didn't know until we had the Angular console. And once you have it, you don't actually have to go and download it from somewhere else or read about the documentation. Everything about that specific schematics is available to you, and you can start using it and install it right there. And other things that we do is the things that we commonly do and very often do, like build it, test it, and serve it. So we talk enough about that. To start with, what you need to do is to go to the angularconsole.com, and you can download it for Windows and Mac, and very soon for Linux, if there's anybody out there who's looking for it. And once you download it, I'm not going to, you have this very nice logo that starts up a desktop application. So if you don't have anything Angular CLI installed, or like any of these schematics are installed in your application, what you can do is also just download Angular console, and we pack it with the Angular CLI and everything that you need to get started. To start with, we have the recently opened workspaces. That means that it could be a mono repo with multiple projects, or it could be a single project. And I can favorite some of them and reopen them here. But before we do that, if you have nothing, this is the page that you are going to see. You have an option to create a new one or import one from your list of applications. So let's import one first. The very cool thing about Angular console is that we can create it using Angular console, which is really, really cool. So I selected my application and imported it. Now I have it on my recents, and if I click on it, I go into the view that says projects. This shows me the applications and libraries that I created in Angular console. If you ever want to learn more about how we build it or contribute to it, this is a great view to take a look. So we have very simple one application with some tests, and then we have some feature libraries, some common utils libraries, and UI libraries. And on the right side, you see some of the commonly used schematics tools, like we can serve the application, or we can test or generate a new component in that specific library or in that application. So let's start from the beginning and create a new one. Well, I'm not creating, okay. So one thing I need to do is select where I wanted to put it on my system, and then select a name. Let's call it, I don't know, NG Mountain View. And once we do that, we have an option to choose basic Angular CLI or narrow schematics. So the difference is that there's just some extensions. Everything that you do with Angular CLI is available with Angular schematics, narrow schematics, with few additional options. So just for the purpose of seeing it, I'm just going to create it with narrow schematics. And what it's going to do is start creating. And what I get is a view of what I would see in my terminal And not only that, I also see the command that I'm running. So what I'm running here is ng-new, and then I have the name ngmv for Mountain View. And the option is for the schematics is narwhal NX schematics. So once I do that, I come back to the projects page, but I do not have any applications currently. So what is happening is that we created a workspace, but we do not have any applications or libraries. What we can do is, at this point, take a look at it. And automatically, we are detecting all of the editors that you have available in your system. As you can see, I'm a hoarder for editors. So I select one and click on it. And my project is going to open up automatically. So now I can see what I've created. What I created is basic application structure. We have the Angular JSON, so we can see we have the CLI set up, but we do not have any projects yet. And additionally, we have some NX data here. So if we go back to Angular console, we can start generating code. So one thing that we want to do is to have an application, right? So let's start recreating console here live. Nobody is suspicious of that comment. So what we have is that what I start doing is that I selected the option to create an application, and I automatically have some important fields. We choose these fields right now, but in the future we wanted to get the information from the schematic or find out about the ones that are mostly used. So in this case, I named it console. I can define a directory that it's going to be. And what happens is that before I generate, click on generate, we have some dry run. So you can, I don't know if it's big enough, but the first line is showing me what I'm going to run when I click on the generate. So we have ng generate, application, the name is console, and then we are doing a dry run, meaning that we are not creating anything, we are not downloading anything, but we are seeing what will happen. So it says we are going to create all these files and folders and update Angular JSON, package.json, and NX.json. Additional options, we have inline style, template, routing. Routing sounds good. I'll check that. Prefix defines the prefix that your components are going to be generated with. We can define the style, extensions. We should never skip the tests. That's a sin. But we have the option to skip package.json installation, and we can create some text. So I know nothing about NX schematics, but I know how all of the options that are available to me to create a new application. And I see what is going to happen visually, like in a terminal. This is what I would see normally if I copy and pasted this line on my terminal. So if I created the application, and it's all done. If I go back to my application, now I see I do have an application. Let's do a library as well. Let's call it UI. And we can say it should have a routing, but we don't want it. We can create it to be lazy loaded, and we can define where we want it to be imported in. So parent module defines where this library is going to be imported to. And if I start typing, I do have the automatic autocomplete, which is really one of the nicest things in this application, I think, because I hate writing these long paths. So I can't lazy load if there's no routing. One thing I learned now. So I generated it, and it is very quick. And now I do have a library. So we can go back to our editor and take a look. What we have apps folder with an app. And let's look at the app.module. We have some routing set up here, and lazy routing is set up, and my UI library is already being loaded. So that's very cool. Thank you. And the other thing that we have is the UI library with the module, but we haven't created anything in it yet, and the router is set up for it as well. Okay. What else can we do? So I do have the app. Have you guys used NGRX? Anyone using state management? Not many. It's such a great thing. I'm a huge fan of the NGRX store. It makes your life and state management very easy. And because Angular CLI didn't have the option, we also created an option to create NGRX store. One thing that is kind of painful is to remember how to set it all up. What I'm going to do is just create one for the app, and the state that's going to be created is going to be under the state directory. And I can define the module, which module I want it to be. And I want it on the main module. And now, again, I can take a look. We have a facade option. We can create a facade. We can say this is the root. Since this is our main application, it is the root. Let's say facade 2. Why not? And then we create generate. And let's see how our application have been updated. It's hard to see right now, but well, if you notice, we didn't have this store module before. What happened here was, as we can see, we have a new state directory created, and we have the effects and facade and the reducers, all of them created. And then the app.module is updated to have the store and set up to have the developer tools as well. And package.json is updated because we had to include the NGRX. So as you can see, store module is set with a reducer and a configuration with initial state and store. And we know that when we are in production, we don't want to have the store dev tools, but we have the environment set up for development to have the dev tools. And if we take a look at what we created inside the state is that we have some basic actions. If you're totally new to this, and if you've never done it, it's just takes a lot of getting used to. And writing these things is not so much fun, but we already create some of the events that you would normally have, like the app loaded or app has an error. We have the effects, and we have data persistent fetching, which is specific to NX. You can have different kinds of effects. This is where you have some side effects on your NGRX store. You have some facade options. This was something that we enabled. This allows us to abstract out some of the functionality. And we have our basic reducer and initial status set. So this is NGRX with NX schematics. If we go back to what we are doing here, we can also create new anything that we have available with the Angular schematics. The other cool thing is that we have some of the tasks that we are reading from your npm scripts. So build, extract, lint, serve. These are the scripts that are available on your package.json. If we take a look at the scripts, nope, we don't have any scripts here. Okay. So these are the tasks that come with the Angular CLI. So Angular CLI has the serve option, lint, and build. So the other thing that we have available is that we can specify the library that we want to use the lint, but we failed. We'll take a look at that. So I talked a little bit about how we can discover new tools. This is the extensions that we have available so far. We have Narwhal schematics, Angular toolkits, material, and Progress have a bunch of new ones. And you can add your own schematics as well. One thing that you can do is create a pull request or an issue if you have a schematics that you wanted to share and you want us to include. And we will include your extensions for people to be able to easily discover and use. We actually haven't served the application, right? So this is one of the tasks, and we can just do the ng serve here. And we have some options. We can have the AOT to be true or false. And the additional options are the port, localhost, and all these things that comes with the Angular CLI that you might not know about. So if we serve it, it will start running, and it says it will be available on localhost for the 200. And we do have our application running. There's not much in it, but we have a scaffolding ready. Serve is ready, test is ready. You can run the tests here and see what's going on and learn more about any of the options. Anything else that you would like to see? Leonardo, you look like you have a question.
The question is, will Layla support ng access, the competitor of NGX?
Oh. So the good point, thank you so much. So this tool, Angular Console, is not specific to NX at all. So it is definitely agnostic. So every option that we are taking is from the metadata of the schematics. So all of the descriptions and all of the options are defined in any kind of schematics, like material defines its own, CLI defines its own. So we are really making sure that we are not hard coding anything. So if you add your schematics or any other, person's schematics, then it will work as the same.
All right, let's give Ayşegül a big round of applause.
Thank you.